All right, my friends, I want to show you how to use all 12 notes in your 12-bar blues, right? Adding some chromatic stuff and how I look at it and how I use it. So if I'm here, I'm in A, right, tonal center. So I'm going to start with my root note. There it is, the root note, the tonal center. Let's get to the more interesting stuff. My natural 7, I'll generally throw that in for it being the major third of my 5 chord. So when I get up to that 5 chord, right, I might throw it in there. And now, my flat 7, of course, is just gonna give me some tension into my root note as well as being the flat 7 in my 1 chord. Now my natural 6, I'm gonna use it the same way that I'm using my natural 7, where I'll use it as the major third of my 4 chord. Or it does come up as that 13 in my 1 chord, right? Which is gonna happen a good amount if you're doing any, or even, right, there it is right there. So that does pop up a lot on a 1 chord. So that's my natural 6. My flat 6 generally will happen, right, if I want to switch tonally to a 4 minor pentatonic over that 4 chord, right? And then that flat 6 will be like my minor third of that sort of switch, right? My 5. There we are. You know, if I really want to use it over my 1 chord, or I'm sorry, over my 4 chord, right, to give me a little bit of a 9 kind of sound, I will do that because that 5 will be the 9 of the 4 chord. My blues note, I'm just going to use that as I will to create that bluesy sound and a lot of that tension, right? I get down to my 4. Oh, so that's my sharp 4. I'm sorry. My tritone, my sharp 4. My 4, I'll simply use it as a landing place for my 4 chord, right? It being the root note of my 4 chord. I'll also use it, let's say I have maybe a slower blues or a blues where the first 4 measures are all the 1 chord, right? Before it switches to the 4 chord. I might throw it in as a landing place on measure 2 or 3, right? And that just gives me like almost like a subdominant push back into, right, the 1 without creating too much tension in the melody, in the solo, not in the chord progression, right? It just it just has that little bit of a sound. You sort of land on that. It doesn't create that tension, but it still wants you to get back to that root note before we actually make the switch to the 4 chord for measures 5 and 6. So that's where I'll use it when I'm not just landing on it for the 1 chord, or I'm sorry, for the 4 chord, for the root note of the 4 chord. For the 3 major third of my 1 chord, of course, it can pop up there for that 5 chord. It's the 13 of the 5 chord as well. Right there. Where am I? Minor third. Of course, I'm just going to use it, right, for building a little bit of tension on my 1 chord. My 9. Cool. I'm going to primarily use that as a landing place over my 5 chord. I could also, giving it a little bit of a bend, so technically it wouldn't really be the 9 or the 2, because I would be bending up to either, right, the flat 3, the minor third, or the major third. And then my flat 2, my flat 9, right, I really like that sound. Stevie Ray Vaughan throws it in, like a good amount, and it's a really cool sound. I tend to only throw it in when I get to my 5 chord, right, and it's just outlining the blues scale starting on my 5th tone. Right, so a 1 minor third, 4 blues note, that sharp 4, and then my 5 over that 5 chord starting on the 5. And that's where that flat 2 will be the blues note if I modulate up to that 5, and then finally I'm back to my root note. So there we are. So try it, throw it in. Let me know what you think. Let me know how it sounds. It's definitely a cool way to break out of not just the pentatonic, but even if you're starting to play a little bit more modally over your blues, they're really cool, creative ways that you can throw all 12 notes into your blues stuff there.